All right, guys, welcome back to Still Horse History Adventures. Today we're going to head down and talk about the Battle of Secessionville. For that, I'm going to head to the location of where Fort Lamar, or what at that time was called Tower Battery, would have stood. So with no further ado, let's go ahead and jump on the bike and get out of here. So here we are, guys. We're out at the location of where Fort Lamar, or what was called Tower Battery to begin with, is located at. I'm gonna walk around and show you as much as I can, but they have some restrictions out here. You're not supposed to walk around on the earthworks, as they are some of the original earthworks that were built up during the time of the American Civil War to create this fort, to create this battery. Now, in order to get into the actual story itself, we need to go back a little bit to May 12th, 1862. This is when a man named Robert Smalls, a slave, and his crew are all going to steal a ship known as the Planter being a Confederate ship. Now, when they get this ship to Union blockade lines, they're going to provide some very valuable information to the Union, to include which forts and which batteries here around the Charleston area are manned, which ones are unmanned, which ones have a higher number of troops, and which ones have a lower number of troops, at least to the best of his knowledge. Now, this intel is going to provide very valuable insight for Major General Hunter, who is the commander of the Union forces in this area. Now, Major General Hunter is going to send a man by the name of Brigadier General Benham, and with him he's going to bring Brigadier General Wright and Brigadier General Stevens. Their goal is to capture James Island. They're intending for a takeover of Charleston. Now, on June 2nd, General Stevens is going to move onto Battery Island. This is going to catch the attention of the Confederates. But they've got another problem they have to worry about. They're also having to worry about ships that are out in Folly River. Now, they're going to send a man to go and deal with this. Captain Chester, sorry if I didn't pronounce his name right, but he's going down and he's going to attempt to take 4 artillery pieces with him, and he's going to start shooting at these ships. Unfortunately for him, on his way down Battery Road, one of them veers off, goes into the marshland, and he loses that gun. He just doesn't have the time to pull it back up out of the marsh. So he continues with his 3 remaining guns, and when he gets down there, he begins firing at the Union Navy. It won't be long after that before he's going to receive word about Stevens' arrival on Battery Island, and he's going to make the decision at this point to go ahead and retreat back to James Island, up by the Presbyterian Church, which was a forward operating point at the time. Unfortunately, on the way back, he'll lose 2 more guns. On the morning of June 3rd, the decision is made to go and recover these guns that the captain has lost, and they're going to send a man by the name of Peter Gilliard to go and do this. Now, Mr. Gilliard and his men are going to attempt to get these guns, but on their way there, they're going to run directly in to the 28th Massachusetts. This is going to show them the Union's a little closer than they thought they were. They'll immediately begin engaging these units, and they're going to push them back just a little bit, just enough to claim a small victory and to retreat and get back to the forward operating point. Now, before they can take off, they're going to continue pressing a little bit, and then the Union Navy will begin firing at them. At that point, the decision's made they're going to have no choice but to go ahead and retreat and take the victory that they had won and not push their luck any further. So General Evans, who's in charge of the Confederate forces on James Island, is going to order a man by the name of Colonel Lamar to reinforce his fort, which is the battery known as Tower Battery, or Fort Lamar, as we discussed it will become known as. So he starts off by reinforcing the earthen walls of the area. And if you can briefly see behind me, the large earthen hills that are back here are some of the remains of those old earthen walls. Now, they're going to build out a moat of sorts, but it's called a dry moat, right? You dig out all the dirt, you place a little bit of a rise on one side and a much larger rise on the other side, and the larger rise is where your fort's located at. As the enemy would have approached the fort, what they would have really seen was mainly just the gun emplacements, right? You couldn't tell how many men were on the other side. You couldn't tell how large the area was on the other side. Your sense of scale was really going to be taken down by these earthen walls. Now you can see some over here to this side, as I pointed out already, but also across the road there, you can tell there are some earthen walls built there too. Of course, the road passing through it today. But they're going to build up these fortifications, and they're going to start placing these guns out here. One being an 8-inch gun, one being an 18-pounder, or I believe actually two 18-pounders, either that or two 24-pounders. Either way, he's going to place his guns up there in the wall, and he's going to begin the process of preparing for this battle, but he still is unsure of when the battle's going to come. Now, he has his scouts report exactly the locations of these Union troops, and Colonel Lamar is going to make the decision to begin bombarding in their direction. And we're going to find this is really going to anger General Benham. So Brigadier General Benham, angered by all of this bombardment that he is receiving from Colonel Lamar, is going to make a decision to go ahead and start planning his attack. Now, this is in direct violation of an order that he has been given by Major General Hunter, who has told him to stand fast and to not advance until he's either A, resupplied by forces, or B, until he's given a direct order by Major General Hunter himself to go into the attack. Now, Colonel Lamar is pretty heavily fortified in, but he doesn't have quite as many troops as what you're going to find General Benham with. General Benham's going to take this as a bit of overconfidence on his own part, believing that if he outnumbers the enemy, he can make this attack successfully. Now, the bombardment is going to continue from about June 4th or so, all the way until about June 15th. On the morning of June 16th, 1862, Union forces will place themselves into positions and get ready to assault Tower Battery. Now, they're going to arrive at their positions about 4:30 in the morning and begin this assault, where 3 advanced units will go ahead and start making their way toward the front lines. Now, unfortunately, the lead unit of that veers off course a little bit, and they end up in the marshlands knee deep in the pluff mud around here. And if you've ever been to the Charleston area, you know pluff mud is no joke. It's going to take them a long time to get up out of that, and all of the commotion going on outside of the fort is going to alert the men in Tower Battery that there is an attack on its way. We start hearing the artillery pieces fire off, and the Union begins double timing it to the walls. As they ascend those walls, they're going to start taking over the gun parapets, and unluckily for them, Colonel Lamar has actually scheduled a relief unit to come in at this time. They're on their way into the battery itself when they hear all of the commotion. They come in and join the fight, and slowly they end up repelling this attack by the Union, pushing them back down the walls. Now, they are stuck in a spot where they're trying to take over the fort, but they got to come up with something else. General Stevens is doing everything that he can, but General Wright is trying to flank this fort. He has a New Hampshire unit probing the side across the marsh, and they can't find a way over. They roll their artillery pieces into position, and they begin bombarding the fort from a distance. Now, the Confederates have no choice at this point but to go ahead and focus some of their own firepower across the marshland, and they're going to start inflicting casualties over there while taking casualties themselves. This flanking maneuver at least is working a little bit, and it's allowing the main force to gain a little more headway and a little more ground. However, they are still going to be repelled as more Confederate forces are going to be on the way to reinforce. In fact, the men of the New Hampshire unit across the marshland are going to end up getting blindsided with a Confederate force right behind them. They immediately start their surrender. Well, surrender is a bad word for it. They immediately start their retreat. And we are going to see that General Wright is going to order this retreat, and they're going to continue back toward the Grimball's plantation where they had been staged at. Now at this point, General Benham knows without a doubt that he's been defeated. There's no way for him to continue this fight. He has amassed too many casualties in just under 3 short hours. The battle itself lasted just over 3 hours, and at the end of the battle, the Union had amassed over 600 casualties, while the Confederacy had only sustained just over 200. This is a major defeat for Brigadier General Benham, and it's been in direct violation of an order that he was given by Major General Hunter. Needless to say, when Hunter finds out about this, he is going to court-martial Benham. Now on the Confederacy side, Colonel Lamar will sustain an injury during the battle, a direct gunshot wound to the neck. Luckily for him, he does survive this, but unfortunately, several months later, he will die of an unrelated issue. He will die of typhoid. After his death, they'll rename Tower Battery to Fort Lamar. It will be known as that for the rest of the war. In 1863, it will ultimately fall to Union hands, and the Union will start a bombardment of Charleston that will last somewhere around 567 days. All right, guys, thanks for joining me for the Battle of Secessionville here at Fort Lamar. Hopefully you learned a thing or two about it and its relation to South Carolina history, specifically in the Charleston area. But hey, if you like this video, we got a lot more great content planned for you. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and also hit that little bell over there to give yourself notifications anytime I upload something. But hey, until next time, make sure you check twice, save a life, take care of each other.